to the
Right.
Owls, Sheffield
Yes,
Wednesday,
indeed.
who had a horrific sort of 3 or 4 months last season where they really dropped down, and they'd always been seen from. I remember a couple of years ago, you would look at their four strikers who they had at the time and think, any combination would be, a super front two, and um, new coach, and then they picked up at the
Yeah.
end of last season. What's your take on Wednesday, Harry?
Um, Interesting. The headline I put on the preview I did was that they're going to be massively. They feel they are dark horses. They're going to be massively underestimated because people have forgotten about them,
Mm.
purely because they had an appalling season with injuries last year. I think when we played them, they had something like 13 players out. It was literally who's last man standing. So in that sense, they see themselves as dark horses because in each of the other seasons they were, when they had a full strength squad, they were. They were firing on all cylinders and they were genuine playoff contenders. Now a lot of those players have come back. They finished last year with a 5-1 win against Norwich, which was
Very, very, very useful to us, actually. Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. And they've been they haven't brought in any players at the time we're broadcasting. There haven't been any new arrivals. They've weeded out a couple of fringe players, like some of the older players. Glenn Loovens has gone to Celtic. Ross Wallace, he was on trial, I think it was with Wigan or Bolton. I think it was Wigan, and but he's still unattached. And Jack Hunt has gone to Bristol City, and Jordan Rhodes has gone on a season-long loan to Norwich. So he's reshaped the squad a little bit, but they haven't brought any players in. But it's getting players back has been under Luhukai. That's been the big thing. And initially they were sceptical about him, but they have warmed to him since. As the months have gone by, he was the manager of. He's Dutch, if I'm not mistaken, and he did manage VfB Stuttgart, so he has got Bundesliga experience. He came in January. He took over from Carvajal, and basically he nurtured them through to the end of the season. And now that he's had a proper pre-season, they're still all not fully fit, but they are all starting to come back. Three at the back in one of its midfielders. One of the teams he played against, their final game was against Villarreal, but against Mansfield, the team I have up here, Lees, Van Aken and Fox across the back three. And then the midfield three of Hutchinson with Pelupessy and Bannon. It's a decent three. Palmer and Reach as wing backs, and then up front he's got Forestieri, who was a huge miss last year, and Nuhiu, who's turning into an absolute legend for them. And that isn't, there's your perfect little and large combination. Nuhiu was given a contract extension, but there are other players like who didn't feature. They've got people like keeper Kieran Westwood, Daniel Pudel, Lucas Joao, Marco Matthias. They're all kind of on the, they're all coming back into play. Keep an eye on them. They've as I say, Luhukai has got them playing. It's a nice. They're a nice footballing team. Probably not a huge difference to the way Carvalho had them playing, but they are playing with a definite personality, and that three in midfield again gives them the balance that they're looking for. So they are proper dark horses because last year they had so many injuries. I don't think they're going to be as low as they were this year. I don't think they've been able to do much. Some of their fans were talking about financial fair play. That is an issue, I think. So they haven't been able to augment the squad in any way. So it has just been it's been an incredibly quiet transfer window for them. But they're happy with what they've got. Reach they like, but I think Forestieri's role is going to be critical. And one of the things they said was the Carvajal actually used him as an out-and-out striker where he'd be bullied, whereas Luhukai has been actually dropping him into a wider role or pulling him a little bit further out. And Forestieri's one of those strikers who you feel if he can get some space, he can actually cause real problems. Now, if they use him as a wing-back, I'm not so sure because I'm not sure how disciplined he would be defensively, but if you were to play him as possibly on the left side of the three in midfield where he can actually break forward, that could be a problem. And they've got Reach, who's very versatile because he can play out wide, but he can also play in midfield as well. It's, as I said, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs buts with Sheffield Wednesday this coming season, but I think the phrase that kept coming up time and time again was surprise package. That
My view, sorry Harry, my view
go for it.
is.
Yeah.
I've got shades of Norwich coming back, and I'll give you my analogy. Every year I thought Norwich were going to move on from Houlihan and replace him and go a different direction. No, they couldn't get anyone better. They couldn't get anyone better, and he would be there year after year. And I remember the idea was, no, Nuhiu's too big and too slow, and he's going to be, and we're moving on from Forestieri, and it's going to be Rhodes and Hooper, and that was where they were. That was where they were going last season, and I always worry about, okay, we're shelving these two guys, and from what you're saying, no, we're back on Forestieri and Nuhiu. Do you know what I mean? It's like they weren't good enough, they couldn't find anybody better, and now they're good enough again. What do you think?
That's very good. I think there's a lot in that. I think was it Forestieri who suddenly decided he wanted to transfer before they played Norwich actually a couple of years ago, which was quite telling. It could be that it's wishful thinking, and that they feel that we've reformed the band and we're back on the road again, and it'll be just like the old times. I don't know. I'm not sure it's a playoff team. But I think it's a competitive team, and Forestieri is a player. I can see the parallel. I can see the parallel with Houlihan, all right. That he's a player. He's very inventive, and he's somebody who can keep, if you give him a new Rubik's Cube to solve with a different opponent every week, he will do that. He will do that. So I think much of their season really does depend more on him than it does on certainly than it would on Nuhiu up front. We'll see. I'm intrigued by them. I really am. I think they are dark horses. Whether they've got enough to sustain a top 6 campaign, I'm not so sure. I could see them finishing kind of upper mid-table, 8th, 9th, 10th, something like that. But for them, they are still very worried about picking up injuries next year. That is their fear. But we'll see. Yeah.
Very, very good.